Hi guys, T here. Wanted to give you an update on the Summer Wells case based on the 1 year anniversary, which occurred yesterday. So yesterday, June 15th, 2022, marked the 1 year anniversary of Summer Wells' disappearance, and there were many interviews to update the public on the investigation and many vigils to honor Summer. One person interviewed was one of the Wells' private investigators, a man named Chris Colbough of CNC Investigations. His wife Trudy is also a private investigator, and she too is working on Summer's case. Colbough says that he was contacted and hired by Don Wells and Candace Bly in 2021, and that he continues to have daily communication with them, albeit virtually, as Don is in jail for parole violations, and Candace has been away from the Beach Creek area of late. Colbough and an 8-person team did some drone searching this week for Summer using an infrared drone that can detect areas where the soil has been disturbed. The investigators also talked about looking for patches of grass that may be greener, lusher than surrounding areas. Hearing all this from Colbough and his team prompted me to learn a little more about the science of buried bodies. Now, I want to give you a warning. If you're easily grossed out by the talk of buried bodies, you might want to stop now. It's not very, very graphic, but it's a little graphic. Here's a snippet of what I've found. According to an article entitled Life After Death, the Science of Human Decomposition that I found on the Guardian website, written by Mo Constandi, when a body is buried in shallow ground without a coffin, initially some of the underlying and surrounding vegetation dies off, possibly because of nitrogen toxicity or because of antibiotics found in the body. Ultimately, though, the decomposition will become beneficial for the soil. The plant life above the area where the body is buried will become more diverse, and nematode worms will become more abundant there. The soil will also tend to become more organically rich and darker than the surrounding soil. Now, if there's an embalmed body or a body with mercury-emitting dental fillings, those things are not so good for the soil, and they harm it rather than make it richer. Then I read another article entitled The Science of Finding Buried Bodies by Jamie Pringle and Alistair Ruffell from the Conversation.com website. According to Pringle and Ruffell, professionals looking for victims who may have been buried look for variations in the surface of the ground, such as decompressions or small hills. They also use ground-penetrating radar, which uses radar pulses to image the subsurface. Ground-penetrating radar is best to locate bodies that have been wrapped in something. The wrapping apparently provides a good reflective surface. They also write that large-scale satellite data can help locate potential burial sites. It too can detect areas where the soil has been altered. Once investigators find areas of interest from the satellite data, they can then go to those sites in person, test the soil, find out the soil type, look for places where the grass is longer or lusher. In cases where a body is still decomposing, fluids from the cadaver can be detected by machines that measure electrical resistivity. If you, like me, don't know what electrical resistivity means, let me give you a short definition. Electrical resistivity. Why I put that phrase in my script 3 times, I cannot say. Perhaps I am a glutton for punishment. Measures how strongly a material opposes the flow of an electric current. Mon Dieu. According to the article, a recent study in the UK showed that conductivity in grave soil water rapidly increases up to 2 years after burial. Scientists can use this data to estimate the time since death, meaning how long the person has been deceased. The authors of the article also stated that the type of soil determines how well various survey methods work. For example, electrical resistivity surveys tend to work best in clay-rich soil. Radar, however, is best for sandy soils. And then, of course, investigators can use search dogs and metal detectors. Sometimes people are wearing jewelry, or there's metal in their clothing, such as zippers or snaps. This is fascinating stuff, in my opinion. Let's hope that if Summer is buried, her clothes can be detected by one of these methods. Now, yesterday, Leslie Earhart and Sheriff Ronnie Lawson of the TBI also gave a press conference. Here are the key points of that press conference. According to Leslie Earhart, the case is outside the norm. There are few clues as to what happened to Summer, despite investigators doing everything within their power to find answers. All possibilities are still being explored. Agents and detectives have spent thousands of hours on this case. Numerous search warrants have been executed. I so wish that Earhart would have named which properties have been searched. Inquiring minds want to know. Obviously, the Wells property is among them. All social media accounts of those associated with Summer have been scoured, along with cell phone data and digital content. 3 large ground searches were done over the past year, along with numerous targeted searches. From TBI alone, more than 100 agents and intelligence analysts and support staff have been working on this case. 170 interviews have been done, and many people have been interviewed more than once. Thousands of tips have come in and been tracked down. Many of those tips have had false information, and some of those false tips have been intentionally spread on social media. Whoever does that crap, shame on you. Ronnie Lawson also chimed in at the news conference. Here are some of the key points he made. He said that he's been asked why they didn't recruit private citizens to search. He explained that the terrain is too dangerous to allow for that. Also, after initial searches, he said they had to go back and obtain the landowner's permission to search. Therefore, they could not go out and have private individuals go on those people's property. So it sounds like some people in Beech Creek were not all that accommodating to multiple searches, or perhaps even an initial search. That's just my interpretation of what Sheriff Lawson is saying. Ronnie Lawson also said that they haven't stopped looking for Summer, and they're going to continue until they find her. I hope that's true. Someone then asked Leslie Earhart if the family is now cooperating with law enforcement, and Earhart said that they weren't going to talk about that. She shut it right down. Someone then asked if the reward fund would continue to be in place, and Earhart replied that it was set up by other people, so TBI cannot answer that question. Someone then asked about the red truck. A TBI agent answered that question and said that they still don't have a good timeline as to when this red truck was observed, where it was observed, and even if it's a legitimate lead. Interesting. When asked if they had any specific information as to how Summer vanished, they said that they don't have any specific evidence as to whether it was an abduction, whether she walked away, or other foul means. It's still really wide open as to the what. Then someone asked if more searches are in the planning, and they responded that no specific plans are in place, but if they get specific information about a specific location, they will go and check it out. When asked if there was still no evidence of an abduction, they replied yes, as in, there's still no evidence pointing to abduction. Leslie Earhart ended the press conference saying that Summer's case is not cold. Then, a letter allegedly written by Don Wells was posted on the Wells family website yesterday. Here is what the letter said. Since you've been gone, I've been completely devastated. I looked everywhere for you, my beautiful girl. I thought YouTube would be the most powerful tool to help find you, and perhaps it still could be, but at a price we may not be able to afford. Our family may not survive. I'm sorry, my beautiful girl, that I completely lost my mind with so many thoughts of people harming you, and I know you may want to come home, and there's nothing I can do. I'm powerless, so I ask God, please look over my precious daughter. We love her so much. We wish, God, you will return her to us, as well as the boys. I would be so happy to be a family again. The letter goes on to cite the Our Father prayer, and then it's signed, Thanks, Don Wells. Now what I see in this letter is Don making an attempt to respond to some criticisms he's been subjected to over the past year. He mentions that he looked everywhere for Summer, even though there's no footage of Don actually searching anywhere for her that I know of. He explains why he turned to YouTube instead of actually putting boots to the ground to go and look for Summer during the period when he was not in jail. He blames YouTube for causing the Wells family harm and possibly being the reason for the family's destruction. However, he fails to mention the CPS visits, his arrest for drunk driving, his alleged DV against Candace, Candace's questionable behavior with a 15-year-old minor, the boys being removed not because of YouTube, but because of the conditions in which they were living at 110 Ben Hill Road. And I'm sorry, but Don Wells cannot blame Chris McDonough of the interview room for outing him as an SAer. Don himself admitted it on a phone call with Chris McDonough. If Don Wells is such a savvy criminal with much experience, he should have known better than blabbing that out to a retired detective. He also should not have done that behavior in the first place, so if he goes to prison and that is the undoing of his family, then that is on him and him alone. Don Wells, in my opinion, is excellent at pointing blame everywhere but at himself. Clearly his time in jail hasn't cleared his mind to the realities of the situation, at least when it comes to his behavior and that of his wife, Candace. Don mentions wanting to be a family again, and yet many people, including some of the Wells neighbors, have said that Don was rarely at home and would often disappear for days. So I'm sorry, but I'm not buying Don's sudden love of all things family. I'm sure he did love his boys in Summer, but they were not enough to keep him away from drugs and booze, and they were not enough to make him go into rehab and give it his all. So I find all this rather shallow and insincere. That's just my opinion. My hopes for this day, yesterday, were that the TBI would announce that they found something significant. So I have to say that I'm disappointed. However, I'm never going to give up on Summer or her case, and I will keep shouting her name from the rooftops, because that little kiddo, just like all missing kiddos and people, deserve not to be forgotten, and they deserve to be found and brought home no matter what. Until the next time on Bed Crime Stories. Now please do me a favor, hit that like button, leave me a comment, subscribe if you're not yet a subscriber, and if you want, you can even leave me a thank you. Now, if and when I ever do get donations to support my channel, my pledge is to donate 50% of everything I receive to either EquiSearch or other foundations that assist in finding and identifying missing people.